Oh, there we go.
All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Hey, this is Stephanie. I'm calling Gary Hustwit. I'm Stephanie from Kickstarter. I'm calling in from Kickstarter HQ in Brooklyn, New York. Gary is also calling today from Brooklyn, New York, in a different neighborhood. We're very lucky to have Gary here. He is an incredibly prolific creative person, filmmaker, photographer. He has more than 10 productions under his belt when it comes to film, and he makes things of all kinds. So today we'll be talking to Gary about his experience specifically as a creative person using Kickstarter. So he has used Kickstarter to produce a film, to make a book, and also a photo book in collaboration with somebody else. So the way that this Hangout will work is Gary and I will talk. I am watching Google Plus for any questions that people have. If you want to post them here, you can. You could do it in the comment box. You could do it in the Q&A box in Google Plus. If you would prefer, you can also tweet at us at Kickstarter Tips. We'll also be watching the Twitter feed for any questions coming in. Any questions you guys send us, I will put to Gary, and then he will answer them.
Hopefully. We'll see.
I am so sure you will. So to get us started, I'm just going to throw a question at Gary, and in the meantime, guys, send us your questions. So as I said, when I introduced you, Gary, you are an incredibly prolific person. It's kind of amazing looking at your bio and your filmography and just like seeing everything you've been able to do. Many of the Kickstarter creators that we talk to every day are just getting started with their first idea, with their first project, which always seems so behemoth. So I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about how you've managed to maintain momentum from idea to idea to idea.
Sure. You know, I've been doing this for a long time now. I mean, I kicked out of college and just started working with friends' bands, releasing records, and touring and publishing books about music and all sorts of things in the past 25 years. So, like, I'm kind of geared to just kind of do independent projects. So it's just kind of what I'm constantly thinking about. Just like what new film or book or event or anything would I want to see, and then just trying to kind of decide if it's possible, if I can do it, and then just kind of full steam ahead, try to make it happen. So I think for me it's mostly about keeping momentum from project to project. Certain projects, I can do a Kickstarter campaign, or a Kickstarter campaign makes sense for that project. Certain ones it might not, depending on what it is. So a lot of it is about that, just kind of deciding, well, does this kind of lend itself to getting a lot of people involved and in doing a Kickstarter for it, or is it just kind of a little bit simpler and easier just to do it on my own? So it really just kind of toggles between those two things, project to project.
That's really great insight. And actually that kind of leads into, I'm going to fire one more question at you before we go to an audience question. So you just said, you alluded to, some questions lend themselves to doing Kickstarter projects, some don't. In the three that you've done, what was it why did you decide to use Kickstarter, and what were how did it change the nature of the project to bring in a community like that?
Well, the first real Kickstarter project I did was with Urbanized, the third film in the trilogy of design docs that I made. At that point, we had already kind of been working on the project for 2 years, and it was a little bit bigger scale than the first two films. And I think we were really trying to kind of just get finishing funds to complete the film. So that I think that lent itself to going out and really just appealing to everybody who had seen the other films and was interested in this one to kind of be a part of this project and help make it happen. So that in that case, that felt like it made sense to me. Another project that I did a Kickstarter for was the Olympic City book, which was photographs of former Olympic host cities. It's sort of this long-term photojournalism project that I'm doing with John Pack, who's another photographer. That one, we really wanted the input of a lot of people because like in that campaign, we let the backers decide which cities we should go to. There were kind of too many cities for us to cover in the first book, and we were like, okay, well, we got 2 more cities to go to. What do you guys think? Who should we? Where should we go? So it was kind of cool to really have that be almost a collaboration with the backers. I think there's a lot of different perceptions of people that are doing Kickstarter campaigns or thinking about doing it. One is kind of like this, oh man, we're going to deal with 500 people or 1,000 people. They're going to be like bugging me about this stuff. But I see it as if you run a campaign that's successful and you've got this group of backers, that's an asset. That's something that you can really use to help. These are people who want to see your project finished as much as you do. And there's so many ways to kind of let them truly be involved that will help you out. I mean, I can't even think of how many times in the past 5-6 years that if I've needed something like for the Olympic City project, John, the other photographer, was going to Sarajevo. We didn't know anyone in Sarajevo. So we just went down the backer list and we're like, oh yeah, there's 2 people from Sarajevo who backed it. Sure enough, one of them was like, let John stay at his house and was his guide. And so it is a real resource for you as a creator. It's not just about the money. It's about, these are people who are interested in what you're doing and who might know more than you do about your project or about the technology or some facet of it. So I think it's really important to kind of use that and to like really make it a true collaboration.
Yeah, that's really great. And it's actually, one of the reasons we're doing these Hangouts is because we believe the community that builds up around each of these projects and around Kickstarter in general is really important and really valuable. So for those of you just tuning in, we're talking to incredible Gary Hustwit. If you have questions for Gary, please send them our way, either here through the Google Plus page or through Twitter at Kickstarter Tips. So we have a question actually about urban planning, which I guess is, makes sense considering what you're focused on and what you're interested in. But the question is today it rained heavily in my city, and it left me wondering what I can do just as an average person to contribute towards this urban planning and thinking about when my city is in crisis, how can I help?
I think like what's so great about urban design is that just by living in the city, you're part of it. You're inherently part of the shaping of that city, and the places that you go to work or after work, or things that you buy, the ways you get around the city, all contribute to kind of how the city gets shaped. I think there's so much that can be done on a really, really micro level, like on your block, that can resonate out and kind of make change or kind of spread ideas about change. So I always think like, just go out, just walk out your door and look around and like what needs to be changed. And if you can do something, however small it is, like sweeping up some broken glass that is on a sidewalk that kids might, play on or something. These really, really simple, easy steps make a big difference if a lot of people are doing them. So I think there are ways, and several of the people that I've worked with on the films, like Candy Chang is a perfect example of trying to kind of like organize people in her neighborhood and connect people with like interests, and then sort of harness that to do something better for the neighborhood. Those ideas now, because everybody is online and everybody hears about it, or people are Instagramming, whatever this little thing that you're doing that's on your block, can have like global implications. So don't try to think too big about like massive change in your city. Just think really small about your immediate area, and it's a great place to start.
That's really good advice. I think, and super relevant to just sort of this idea of a community of people coming together to make something, which is what we talk about all the time here at Kickstarter. So, you have a lot of experience as a filmmaker and in photography, and again, as we've discussed, and just making things. One thing that you actually just talked about, and I would love to sort of bring us back to this topic of how you make things in this world. You have done and always done an incredible job with engaging a community around ideas, making people feel empowered and heard. And I think that, you know, your success on Kickstarter is because of that. Like, you always have over 1,000 backers for your projects. I mean, that's pretty incredible. So maybe can you talk about, how do you do that? How do you engage a community of people from Sarajevo or wherever in the ideas of the thing that you're trying to make?
Well, I always think that I'm part of the same community, and if I wasn't doing these projects, I would be the person standing in line to like see them or buy them.
Yeah.
So I never feel like I'm doing some sort of strategic marketing to, you know, such and such of an audience or demographic or something. I'm really just doing projects that I like and that I want to see happen, and then trying to connect with other people who also want to see those things happen. And a lot of it has started, I mean, it started before Helvetica, but once I made Helvetica, which was the first film that I directed, that kind of set in motion kind of this audience of people that liked that film and that wanted to see more films about design. So I think it for me, it wasn't, I don't think, a huge challenge, because I was kind of doing the same thing, like making films that I want to see, and just making it easy for people to support that or to get involved.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, we were kind of doing crowdfunding in those days by just selling T-shirts and posters and things on the website before the film was finished. You know, pre-Kickstarter and pre kind of being more formalized. So yeah, I just think it obviously, like, doing things to Kickstarter makes it just that much easier to kind of make that relationship happen. I always think that you know, one of the first things I tell people that are doing a Kickstarter campaign is just do not use the word donate anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not a donation. This is not public radio. These people are helping, you know, make this project happen. They want to be part of the project. That's why they're called backers and not donors. So this whole idea of like, you know, some artists and creatives I know are like, oh, I don't want to just be like, feel like I'm begging for money or, you know, like, you know, asking for help. Well, you're not. You're doing the project. Like, this thing is happening.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who want to see it happen too. And a lot of people just want to be part of it. It's like really feel like they are part of it. And they are. It's not just, you know, you're not pretending to let people be part of the project. They're literally making it happen. So that whole anytime I see a campaign page or a video that's like, please donate to and make this thing happen, just like, oh, it just drives me nuts, because I think it's not the right kind of philosophy and way to look at what crowdfunding is and what kind of Kickstarter is.
That's really great.
I've got some other pointers that for people that are. I'm assuming that a lot of people that are watching this are either running campaigns or starting campaigns soon, or thinking about it. And the other thing that I've seen is a lot of people have, I think, like, great ideas and maybe have great kind of rewards, but there's no imagery, there's no design. They're not like trying to make mock-ups or trying to do, you know, if there's a T-shirt that's in the reward column and it sounds really cool, but I can't see the T-shirt design, even if it's just theoretical, I think I'm much less apt to back at that project level. So getting somebody who is a graphic designer or you know, the kind of best graphic designer you can kind of, you know, rope into the project I think is critical. People need to feel like, people who are prospective backers need to feel like, oh, this is really happening, and I can kind of visualize, you know, all this stuff, even if it's going to totally change during the campaign. Yeah. Like all of my things that I've done for my films, all the rewards and everything, doesn't look anything like that when the final stuff comes out. It totally changes. But even that is something that you can involve people.
Oh, so, yeah.
Like, hey, we can't decide between blue or gray T-shirts. What do you guys think? Let's do a poll, you know?
That's great advice.
I think it's all kind of an opportunity to sort of have that collaboration. But yeah, great design. I think people need to kind of be able to visualize what it is, even if it's totally theoretical. I see a lot of campaigns now where the project is done. I mean, they've already made it. It looks beautiful. They shoot a fantastic video. I was just watching that vertical turntable campaign that's on right now. I mean, it's like, it's pro. I mean, they've obviously done a lot. It's not like, well, we're thinking about building this thing and you guys help us do it. They're professionals. I mean, they made this thing. They made an amazing video for it. It's already happening, and now it's just really, the Kickstarter campaign is a way for people to pre-order this object.
Yeah, everyone comes in at a different stage, right?
Yeah. But I think it's important to not, like, if Kickstarter can be a way to test your idea, and people shouldn't be afraid to fail on the first one, because I know several film campaigns that went out and they went for whatever number they were trying to hit and they didn't get it, and they retooled, they came back at it again 9 months later and succeeded. So I think that it can be a little bit of that sort of testing ground for, hey, this is an idea I have, here's what I think it could be, who else is with me and thinks this thing is worthy and should be made.
Yeah, that's cool. We have a couple questions I actually want to fire your way. So keep this advice font flowing.
Yeah, totally.
So from Nicole McDonald, she asks about staying ahead during a campaign. She finds it overwhelming and all over the place. This idea of both promoting and managing your backers and all this stuff, it well. So with so many loose ends, how do you stay organized? And what are some of your favorite tools that you've used to keep it together?
Well, I mean, a lot differs from campaign to campaign, depending on what you're going for and what the project is. I tend to be fairly active on social media and Twitter and stuff anyway. So during the campaign, I don't really change that much of what I do. I definitely think front loading the campaign as much as possible, like warning everybody that or everyone that's in your network a few weeks before and a few days before it launches, just getting everybody lined up so that first day when you launch, it just pops. And then, of course, if you're really successful on day one, you're on the various Kickstarter areas, whatever, like for those categories, you're suddenly up there in the, like popular. And that's self-fulfilling. The people like to back the projects that are popular and that they see all up in different areas of the site. You get staff picks and all that kind of stuff. But having that first day sort of pop on your backers is really critical. Don't wait until the project's up and already, been up for a few days to then tell everybody.
Frantically start messaging people.
Yeah. Well, I like to get that inner circle, or just, I don't know, whatever your few dozen or few hundred people that will probably, come out to support you. Get them kind of involved early before the project launches and just give them a fair warning. Launch the project. That first day, you get them involved, and only then do I go out to the big lists and start really tweeting about it. And really, so that when you do those kind of bigger outreach things, there's already some traction. There's already some backers. It's not like people are coming and there's nothing happening, and nobody wants to be the first person to
Cool. I think that's super helpful for Nicole, because what I'm hearing you say is have a plan, reach out to your own network early, and then once your campaign launches, you can use that momentum to then reach out to the bigger. Yeah.
The other thing that I've always found that it's been really critical is having stages of the campaign that you're going to announce something or you're going to do something halfway through that's going to kind of spark more interest and more traffic to come to the site. So whether it's an event or it's an article or something that is going to come out, or that you try to get to come out, you want to have that kind of consistent news and consistent stuff happening throughout the campaign. Cool. And obviously the last couple of days is super critical too.
Yeah. So just having all that clearly mapped out.
Yeah. Yeah, and not just kind of starting it and going, well, maybe I can get somebody to write about it. And you really have to try to think about those things and get as many people in your corner as you think you can get before you do it, weeks before you launch.
Yep. So let's go to the next question from Kara. And we're going to pull back a little just since I think we could talk about Kickstarter, but I think it's about making things in general. So what strategies did you use for team building for your projects? And how do you get your team to work together best, think big, and be creative? It's a big one.
Yeah. Well, filmmaking, at least directing a film, is a little bit like, steering a big barge or a big boat or something. You've got a lot of people that you're trying to kind of steer, and you can really you're really trying to use their creativity to kind of, make the project happen. Like, I try to communicate my idea for the project, but I've got a cinematographer and sound people and an editor and all kinds of other people that are helping me with it. So I try to kind of communicate to them what I'm thinking about and what I think the film should be, and then really letting their creativity kind of take it in directions or do things that I never would have thought of. So it's really about being, just like a project manager and trying to, again, inspire the people that are going to be working with you on it to kind of put their ideas into it too.
Yeah.
I mean, filmmaking is inherently like that kind of structure because there's a director and a producer, and then there's all this, these team members that you're putting together to do it. I mean, when I was first kind of building those teams, I just was like on the web looking at people's films that I liked, and I was like, oh, who edited this? And then
interesting.
just like emailing them, like, wow, I saw you edited that film. Like, I really liked it. Let's talk about this film that I'm doing. So even before I had any kind of like track record as a filmmaker, that's what I was doing. I was like, what do I like, and whose work do I like? And maybe they'll be interested in doing, this, being part of this project that I'm doing. A lot of times they were just like, no, I don't want to do your project. Good luck. And that's fine. But then the people that, I ended up connecting with were still working with now. I mean, so 8 years later. So
yeah,
it's just that, trial and error and looking around and trying to find the people that you think are super talented, and then somehow convincing them, like twisting their arm and getting them to work on with you on your project.
Yeah. I'm sensing a theme from you, Gary.
What is it?
But it's great because I think it's really relevant to who you are and making good creative work, and also, inspiring a huge group of people to be excited about what you do. It sounds like just being real and being a human is your key to success there. And I think you sort of answered this. We have a question from Alan Kelly. Before I tee it up, I just want to say we have just over 5 minutes left in this Hangout with Gary Hustwit. If anyone has any questions after we do this Alan question, we'll probably have time for at least one more. So if anyone has questions, fire them our way, either through Google Plus or on Twitter at Kickstarter Tips is where we're fielding questions. So from Alan, he wants to know about the following you had before your first Kickstarter campaign. You did sort of speak to this, saying that because you had already made Helvetica and sort of built the following, but maybe you could sort of talk more about where that following came from and then how you engaged them in that first campaign specifically.
Sure. I mean, it started with Helvetica, and it was just getting people's emails on the website, sign up for our newsletter. Just really basic.
Super smart.
Yeah, and that sort of grew over the when we remember the early screenings that we did for the film, we'd have the clipboard at the merch table and, have people sign up and that kind of thing. The other thing that really made a difference for us was selling our own tickets for the screenings, like using an online ticket service to sell. Because very quickly I started booking my own screenings and showings of the film. So when we sold the tickets to everyone, we got everyone's email address automatically who came to the show. So that we just started kind of adding those people to the bigger email list. In 2009, when I was at South by Southwest with Objectified, Twitter had already been around for a year, but was really kind of, peaking then. And I started tweeting back in 2009. And then that, all through the Objectified tour, I was just using Twitter as my main tool to get people to screenings, let people know the news. So that just kind of continued on. So it's a combination, really. I still have the old-fashioned email list, which is still really effective. I mean, the great thing about social media is that you can reach millions of people quickly. The bad thing is that everyone else can reach them as well. And if you tweet something within 30 seconds, it's gone and it's off the screen. So I still find that just a plain old email to someone is a lot more effective than a tweet or a Facebook post or anything like that. So don't overlook that. Don't do all these other social media tools, definitely, but just get people's email addresses too, because that's still I think the most effective way to get to communicate with it.
Yeah, and we've heard this from other creators before. Even if for some reason you don't yet have a website, just to launch a landing page to collect those emails in advance of the launch, just start building that list is so key, right? Yeah,
and when people send you an email and they forget to BCC everybody in it, just grab all those email addresses, drag them into your.
Is that official advice? Can we tweet that out?
That's not official advice, although I have not mass grabbed those before, but I've definitely gone through and oh, that person, I do want their email address.
So final call, questions for Gary about filmmaking, about photography, about running Kickstarter campaigns. He's done 3. They've all been huge.
I feel like we just got started here.
I know. We can do it again. We'll do a reprise. Anybody? Gary, what about, okay, let's do this. Final, I know you have so much advice. Give us what do you think the number one thing all these people watching, wait. I'm gonna back out of that. Alan has a question for you. Alan would like to know, after a very popular series of campaigns, do you now use PR teams or is it still just you? Excellent question.
It's still just me. Yeah, we don't generally use a publicity team. I mean, I just try to include as many kind of writers or journalists or websites that I think would be interested in this stuff. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about trying to stage different things during your campaign that can happen to get people in. Like if I know a magazine that is going to probably be interested in this project, I might go to them before we start it and say, hey, we're going to do this thing, and do you guys want kind of an exclusive look into it, or first photos, or the trailer or whatever that is. So trying to kind of include, sites that you think are heavily trafficked and that are, in line with what your project is, trying to kind of give them a little bit of an inside line on it.
Yeah.
In exchange for that visibility, I think is a way to kind of get that exposure if you can't bring on a publicist. I know there are a lot of people and a lot of companies and a lot of great ones that really specialize now in Kickstarter campaigns and publicizing them or helping you run them, and then take a cut of your total. But and those can be great. I mean, but I think all of us know the places that we go to read news or discussion groups or forums or whatever it is. So if you just really kind of can rely on those, and again, think of it as more, where are the people who like you are interested in this subject matter? Where do they go to get their information, and just be there with it?
Yeah, again, we've heard this so often, this question about, do I need to hire somebody? I think everything you're saying is right on, being personal, being specific in your pitches. It's not just hey, I have a Kickstarter campaign. This is the creative project I'm making. This is why I think you would be excited about it, and here's what we can do. And being timely. That's all really good advice. I will also say, I think a lot of the success of your projects has been because you are so personally involved. We've seen this with filmmakers who sort of step away and let an agency handle the communication. They don't go as well. So we have one more question for you. It's a really good one. Monica would like to know, what's your next project?
I was hoping that one wouldn't come up, but, because I'm right at the point where I can start talking about it, but I can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it. Okay.
There's actually 2 films that I'm working on right now. One that I'm currently filming and one that I'm about to start filming. That are both, as much as I try to expand my documentary horizons beyond design, design still kind of like has its claws in me. So
not done with it yet.
They're actually both design related, different than the previous films, but along those. And then there's another project that I'm working on that's kind of more of a interactive performance based thing, but it's really, really close, like in the next month, that I'll be able to start talking about several of them. So
we should join your email list and follow you on Twitter?
Stay tuned. I mean, I just really finished the book that was that we did the last campaign for, which was the complete interviews from the 3 films, and that nearly killed me. So that was way harder than I thought it was going to be. And that's the last piece of advice, I guess. It's like, don't bite off more than you can chew in the campaign, and then just be, stressing out and ruining your life trying to
that is
finish it.
That is excellent parting advice for all the people watching today, probably in life in general and in Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for challenging yourself to reach, but don't overdo it.
Don't reach too far. Awesome. Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, Stephanie.
And we'll do this again with you in the future. And for all of you watching, this is Stephanie from Kickstarter. We were joined today by Gary Hustwit, who is a filmmaker and photographer and many-time Kickstarter creator. We are doing these Hangouts every week from Kickstarter HQ, always on Wednesdays, always at 1 o'clock. So please stay tuned in to our Twitter channel to see when the next one is and who the speaker will be. So thanks, Gary.
You're welcome. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See ya.